Welcome to the Hunters Hub, a Monster Hunter community podcast for hunters by hunters. Welcome, hunters, to the Hunters Hub, episode 14. Today we are we as in me, just Fortuan, is joined by Arekkz from across the ocean. Hey.
How's it going? Thank you for having me back. It's good to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to have you on again. It was fun the first time, and I bet it's going to be fun this time.
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah. Always good to talk Monster Hunter. Definitely.
Yes, especially with so much of it going on, the zeitgeist of it coming out so soon.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm just like, I mean, it's crazy the amount of stuff that's. I get to the point now where I just can't keep on top of it because there were trailers. Obviously, we had like the Elder Dragon trailer, and then they just suddenly started dropping commercials left, right, and center. Every time I go on, and like suddenly there was like the Capcom TV stream, and I'm just like, "Yo, slow down! I can't keep on top of all of this stuff." So, but it's good. It's good. It's really nice to see.
Yeah, well, not only that, but you're also covering, you said DBZ, and then you're also doing, Destiny continues on every week.
Yeah. I mean, obviously that's it's a kind of slightly slower period. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things. I mean, there's other things kind of popping up soon as well. I mean, I'm trying to juggle as many as I can. Like, I know Ni no Kuni 2 is around the corner. Shadow of Colossus, like the remastered one. But yeah, the big one is, of course, I was kind of, because I'm super looking forward to Dragon Ball FighterZ, but it's just that on the same day as Monster Hunter, Monster Hunter is going to take priority. It has to. It's one of my favorite game series, and I'm just like, I really want to play Dragon Ball, but it's going to have to happen like in and around it. So yeah, I'm just trying to juggle as many things as I can this week, so that next week when that Monster Hunter launches, I can just be like, oh, my videos are done. I'm just going to play some Monster Hunter. That's the hope. Still got videos to make, lots of videos to make, but yeah,
I can understand that. So, just real quick for the audience, I've gotten a habit of doing a little more plugging in the beginning because we don't really do that. But just real quick, if you guys want to catch the latest updates, you can follow me at Fortuan on Twitter. And we have a new Patreon, which is just Hunters Hub, patreon.com/Hunters Hub. So, that boring stuff out of the way. What do you say we get into it, Arekkz? So,
Let's do it.
Nergigante. That beta is dropping tonight for me, super early in the morning for you.
Yeah.
Are you excited? I know you fought Nergigante before, so.
I did, yeah. So there was the event in the UK. They put in like this kind of small event, and there were about sort of like 80 people there. But it was the first chance for like us to fight Nergigante, and it was really good. Yeah, really like I'm excited to see what other people say, because I mean, I appreciate you know this only too well as well, but like, the demos typically don't necessarily, they're not there designed to try and sort of say, oh, this is how difficult Monster Hunter is. They're, obviously
Correct.
For the purposes of World, they were there to test the servers, and they're also to a certain extent, they're more focused on trying to get more people into World. So, if suddenly they were like, hey, this is this incredibly difficult game, people will just be like, I'm put off already. So I think the beta served a perfect purpose. But for those people that were like, oh, this game's too easy, like, Nergigante is gonna give you a chance. I mean, to be clear, people are still going to go in and they're still going to defeat him probably quite quickly in the beta, because they're going to kind of get around it. But he definitely gives you, like, if the first few times you fight him and you're learning his moves, he will mess you up. Like, he's got a few almost one-hit KO moves. So, yeah, that's going to be fun.
Now, do you still have the same gear?
Yes, yeah. So the beta gear, okay. So if you are, I'd say, on like 80% health and he does his dive bomb on you, yeah, you're dead. Like, so there's a couple of them you need to be like super careful on. I think it's just kind of funny because obviously talking to Tokuda-san, like the director, he just he was like, like when I interviewed him in Japan, and also when he was at Paris Games Week, he was like, yeah, Nergigante doesn't mess around. If you want a challenge, then he's gonna be a fun one. So that's I mean, because also the unfortunate thing was at the event that I was at, because there were so many people, I didn't get a chance to play too much. So, like the first time I jumped on, we were playing with some people that hadn't, they were kind of getting used to the game. So we probably shouldn't have put them into the Nergigante hunt. So we kind of lost our quest there. And then when I managed to assemble a team, we got him limping, and then at the last minute, just he wiped us out. So I haven't actually defeated him at the time of recording this podcast. I haven't actually defeated him at the event. So the beta is my chance to get my revenge on him.
Okay, cool. I'm hoping to be able to take him down. I don't know if you heard when I talked about when I finally got to play and go through the beta, because I don't get to go to those events and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But I finally did get to play, and I've taken everything down with every weapon at this point.
Really?
Which was
nice.
sort of my goal. But one thing I had problems with is a lot of older hunters are coming back and that kind of stuff, and my OG hunting crew from like 2004, 2005 have started playing again. And they were my old high school buddies, and we haven't played games together since like 2006, like when I graduated high school. So it's been a long time since we played together, and this Monster Hunter beta has brought all of them back. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome, but the thing is, they're not as versed in Monster Hunter since Monster Hunter 1.
Oh, wow. Okay, I can see where this is going.
They're not as good as they used to be. They're kind of rusty and that kind of stuff. So we never could take down an Anjanath with just a 2-man. It never worked out. We got a full 4-man or anything. But when it was a 2-man, it was mostly me carrying the weight, and it wasn't that we were dying so much we would time out.
Right.
So I don't know if anyone's completed the multiplayer as a solo, but yeah, that was a little hard. So I'm almost afraid to take on Nergigante, because I think we need a full 4-man team, and I'm not sure that that's going to happen. So I have to take him down solo, I think.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, because obviously this one has a slightly shorter time limit. It has 15 minutes as well, and you've only got the 3 carts, so it's on the cart front, it's a more conventional quest. On the timer front, obviously, it's quite a short quest.
Yes.
Yeah. So that in itself is going to be. I think when we were playing at the event, we got him limping about 7 minutes in. But that was obviously with a 4-man team. So I reckon solo you'll be fine. You just need to. I think definitely the first. I mean, typical Monster Hunter stuff, right? Your first hunt is always like your learning hunt, because you just need to be like, because he's got some rather interesting move patterns, and there's a couple of them that he's got these sort of fake out moves where it looks like he's going to do one thing, and then he'll just sort of like jump and just change directions, or like when he goes to do his he'll jump up in the air. It'll look like he's about to slam down, and then suddenly he can just switch and just slam behind him instead. So he's got a couple of interesting ones there, definitely.
A lot of the Elder Dragons like that have those sort of tricky moves. I remember Teostra, he's, at least in the older games, he's very tricky on like where he's going to jump. He does that jumping back and forth kind of thing. He's he's always like, you can kind of guess where he's going to jump, but you really have to wait till he jumps to dodge. A lot of these Elder Dragons are very difficult, because they give you less of a time to react, they're a little bit less predictable and that kind of stuff. So I am looking forward to fighting him. Hopefully I can take him down. But one thing I was going to mention is, since we've last talked, it's been, we've talked in October.
Yes.
I've actually switched my main weapon in Monster Hunter World. Yeah, so I'm going to be a longsword main now.
Oh, longsword is incredible. It feels so good, right? When you get the, I always forget the name, but they're basically the counter slash. When you get that, it feels so good. Yeah,
there's, I don't know if you saw it, but it's on my Twitter. I have a clip of me taking down an Anjanath with a counter. And it was so good. It was when he does that thing where he just digs into the ground and pushes forward with his wings.
Yes.
That big, like his biggest attack. I was like with him on a cliff, and I did the fade slash, and the sword was up in the air, and I immediately went into the counter, and he did that thing, and I sliced by him and took him down. It was a good shot.
That's amazing. That's so awesome.
But actually, the biggest reason why I switched is I actually miss how Generations does the Charge Blade.
Okay, really?
Yeah, and it's not that I don't like the counter into the 80 kind of stuff. It's that the guard points for me are harder to pull off, because there's no longer a visual cue.
Okay, interesting. Okay, I mean, I can see what you mean. Yeah. That's actually something I brought up when I was chatting to like one of my friends recently. I was just like, oh, I do like, even though like because I use charge play so much, like I know where they are, but I'm like I did quite like, especially for people that are trying to learn the weapon. It was quite nice. There was a very clear this is a guard point kind of visual effect, whereas now it's almost I feel like partly the reason they've done that as well is because they're a little bit more forgiving this time, because not only do you have guard points, but they're to a certain extent from certain just general blocks. You can also go into like AED from a normal block. Like if you've got your charge shield and you just block an attack, there are certain situations, as long as it's not like too hefty of an attack, then just from a block alone you can go into an AED. So I feel like that might possibly be why. But I know what you mean. Yeah, that was a really cool addition actually.
Yeah, and I just, it threw me off enough that I couldn't do it anymore. And I actually, one of my worst, because I was timing myself across the various monsters to sort of get a, like, okay, I'm open to changing weapons. It's what I said to myself when I started playing the first beta. So, not that I don't like Charge Blade, it's just like, I've been a Charge Blade main since 4 Ultimate. And, sometimes you just want to switch it up. So, I was like, okay, Charge Blade. It took me 3-something minutes, or I can't remember. It was a decent enough time to take down Jagras. And then every subsequent weapon, aside from the Insect Glaive, was actually faster for me than Charge Blade. Because, the guard point stuff. It was just like, I'm trying to do guard points, and part of it was me learning it too, getting used to the new controls of the PlayStation and that kind of stuff. Because I don't know how many times I sprinted instead of blocked. My brain wants to be closer to the front of the stick because of the DS. It's
yeah. I know what you mean though about the guard points. I mean, like I definitely found that. I feel like for me, all the times I'm using them so far, they still haven't quite sunk in as being like second nature like they used to be. Like for Ultimate, you get to the point of just doing it without thinking. Like almost just as much as you would press a guard button, you go into guard points. For a while, like. I'm using them a lot more frequently than I used to be to begin with. But like, for me, initially when I was first playing in like the beta, and even when I played like in Japan, a lot of the time I kept on trying to, I would have to like think about using them to use them, whereas like it wouldn't kind of come second nature. But I mean, I think it'll just start to fall into place. Like, the longer that I use the weapon. But it's funny you should say like talk about changing mains though. I mean, because like I think World is one of those games that it's just going to make me main every weapon anyway. I mean, I'll do that to begin with anyway, because I like to get proficient with all the weapons, because I obviously do weapon tutorials and stuff. So I like to try and make sure I know them all like really well. But I do still ultimately like gravitate towards one. But I think because now when I factor in the time that I played at Gamescom, the time that I played in Japan, the time that I played in the beta, I've used the Charge Blade so much to the point where I'm like, you know what, I love this weapon, but I feel like for when the game comes out, for it to feel fresh for me, I feel like I want to use a different weapon. So I think my second main is for sure going to be Hammer. Like Hammer just feels so good in World. Like I love the new power charge mechanic. And I mean, yeah, exactly. And there's like literally no better feeling than sliding down a hill and going to that cartwheel. That that move is amazing.
I would counter and say the dual blade one feels better. I made fun of it because it looks like you're falling downstairs down the monster's back, but it's still so cool.
It is very. That's true. That is very. Yeah, that is very cool too. Yeah. True.
Not to discount the hammer though. It is amazing feeling. So just a little backstory. I used to be a hammer main. So from Freedom. So I played every game in the series extensively. So from Freedom 2 until. So up through 3 Ultimate, I was a hammer main. And
really?
So yeah, I'm a very versed hammer bro. So I was glad to see the hammer got something new. The reason why I switched from hammer in 4 Ultimate is I was one of the, okay, I'm open to new weapons. I want to try something new. I've been doing this for like 10 years. Maybe 8 or 7 at that point. But it's something I know in and out. It's not that it's boring or anything, but it doesn't have a lot of different options. So the thing about the hammer is the simplicity of it. And I was like, I want to get something more complex. I want to challenge my button input when fighting monsters a little bit. And that's why I gravitated towards the Charge Blade. Yeah. After failing miserably at trying to be a Sword and Shield main.
Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, I used to swap mains like each game because for me, like obviously I started playing in Freedom second. So I started with Greatsword for a little bit, and then for the first few Hunter ranks, and then I became a Hammer main, and I basically did like Hammer for the rest of that game, and then partly into and obviously into Freedom Unite, and then I think after that I went Portable third. I did Dual Blades and Sword and Shield, and then what was it? I did Longsword and Switch Axe. No, Longsword, Switch Axe, and then 3 Ultimate. I think I came back to Hammer, and then Sword and Shield for a bit, and then Charge Blade.
3U hammers were good. There was a lot of good hammers in 3U.
Yeah,
I loved the Legiacris ones. They were such cool designs.
Yeah, definitely.
So back to Nergigante. I want to say that I think that the spike growing mechanic, now that we've seen it pretty well before, they just explained it to us in the first reveal of them. Well, at least for us. I don't know about you. I don't know if you saw him beforehand or anything like that. But the spike growing mechanic, that kind of looked like it was going to be very annoying to begin with.
Yeah.
But it sounds like more so... it's not as much as annoying as it's sort of like teaching you have to focus this part a little bit, or if it's already blackened, you just have to avoid that part till he breaks it again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be how a lot of people fight him, because obviously when you get that kind of the efficiencies that really want to sort of like speedrun it, then they're going to be focusing on certain parts. But I think a lot of people when they're starting to learn him, especially if you're playing cautiously, then I think a lot of the time you just get to the point where you're like, all right, because the spikes are only ever wings, head, tail, and front legs or front arm, should I say? So basically, if he gets to the point where he's all in black, then you just hit him in the back legs, you hit him in the kind of middle part of his tail, or you can kind of just stand underneath him and hit him in the stomach. So it's kind of it's one of those things that when I first heard about it as well, having because the first time I fought him was at the beta event, so up until then I'd seen it and I was like, oh, this sounds like a really kind of interesting thing, but in actual fact, in practice, it's it definitely does force you to reposition, but it's not anywhere near as kind of debilitating as I thought, because it's like it doesn't get to the point where he suddenly becomes this impenetrable fortress. It's just like, actually there's just a few. I guess the main thing it does is it does protect kind of some of the weaker points for him. So if you are forced to like the back legs or the middle tail, you're not really hitting in the most efficient places.
That's true.
So, yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Apex monsters.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, those were always annoying, so at least, you can get past it without having to use a random weird item to get...
True.
I hated that.
I mean, that's also partly why, it makes me love Charge Blade so much as well, because, of course, when you charge the blade, you have Natural Mind's Eye, so I'm just sitting there like, lol, this is funny.
No problem. Yeah. The Spirit Slash for me will be the same, the Spirit combo.
Exactly, yeah.
So I wanted to say, I don't know if you got a chance to see it yet, because it just released today for me. It would be today for you still, but they did the sort of announcing of Nergigante in the beta on their official YouTube channel for Monster Hunter. And they were showing off the London event in the background.
Oh, yes.
And there was a lot of interviews with various people playing. And they showed a lot of 269 talking, but not you.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was kind of there as well, but I think they kind of just sort of like pick and choose different people anyway, but they're always trying to get different people's kind of inputs and stuff. But yeah, there were loads of people there that were, in fact, one of the guys that was there had kind of an interesting story, because he came from, he was actually at PSX, so he managed to fight Nergigante, and he was one of the few teams at PSX that actually managed to defeat it.
Oh, okay.
So then he came to the London event as well, and everyone was like, "This is the guy you got to beat." So that was the challenge.
Here comes the pro hunter. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I just saw that video maybe a couple hours ago. I didn't even know, I was sitting there trying to find something for my daughter to watch on YouTube, and I was like, "There's a new video," and she's like, "No, I don't want to watch that." And I'm like, "You're watching it right now."
Yeah, you're gonna watch it anyway. It was actually really interesting, chatting to the guy who did it though. He spoke about it's one of those things where you obviously when the beta leaves, you think about these different things you want to try, but you forget about them, you never get the chance. But he the team that he did when he was at PSX, he was an Insect Glaive user. There was a Dual Blade user, a Charge Blade user, and I mean, this will work for like Lance as well, but like there was a gun lance user on the team, and they basically did like what I'm calling it like aggro lancing. So like a really cool really cool idea, because basically they put on Challenger Mantle, and because Lance and gun lance have the strongest shields, you can actually like block an attack and it won't cancel your Challenger Mantle. Whereas if you use a sword and shield, like, you know, because the shield's weaker, you'll still lose your mantle.
You'll
so
get
effectively,
knocked back.
so effectively, what they did for Nergigante to kind of like to try and do it in a relatively quick time was the Gunlance user sat there with a Challenger Mantle on, blocking every single attack. And Nergigante, of course, focused on the Gunlance user because he's got Challenger Mantle on. So that means that the rest of the people a lot of the time weren't really being attacked. So they were just free to do the damage on him.
Wow.
And then, like the Insect Glaive user, he was just free to go around picking up all the jellies and stuff, and I call them jellies, and the other guys are there doing damage. And provided he didn't mess up his blocks at any point, then the Challenger Mantle remains active until it naturally runs out of time. So that's actually like a really something that I definitely want to test this in this beta, because like, you know, it just seems like that's kind of, if you think about it in like an MMO term, that's basically, you know, you being a tank and you're just drawing all the aggro, be like, come and get me. And that could be, you know, if you get like really proficient with that could become like a really, really powerful strategy, because, you know, you find anything that's like massively aggressive and you just like, just force it to come towards you, and then you kind of like just leave it open for your team. So
yeah, it's a very new strategy for Monster Hunter. There's never really been a sort of a role. It's always been hit and don't get hit, you know, work as a team and don't hit each other. There's never really been any sort of role assignment.
Exactly.
Sometimes people call Hunter Horn and Sword and Shield support, but I always preface this by saying they are totally fine solo weapons, people.
Exactly.
Don't try to pigeonhole other hunters into being certain roles. That's not what this game is about.
No, it's true. Very, very true. Very true.
Yeah. So I wanted to say this before I forget. My daughter actually wanted me to say hi to you for her. So
hi.
She was like, "Say hi, Arekkz. Say hi to Arekkz." And she's 3, so she just basically watches the videos with me sometimes. And
that's
she
awesome.
She likes you and Game Grumps, although we don't let her watch Game Grumps all the way because they cuss.
Of course.
She likes their intro.
That's true. Their intro is cool. Well, say hi from me.
Okay, I will. So moving on from Nergigante, just the beta in general, are you kind of, or, you know, the beta is so close to launch. Like, did this surprise you that we're actually getting this beta? Because I was floored.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly thought, all right, a second beta typically makes sense because, you know, a lot of the time if they're testing things like servers, you know, they did the first one, which was like PlayStation Plus, second one was not PlayStation Plus, obviously it means they can throw more people in. I was like, I honestly thought after that they'd probably have all the data they needed.
And it was over Christmas weekend. It was so weird.
I mean, the timing was very weird for that kind of stuff. I think if anything, like I thought to myself, if we were going to get another beta, I was honestly expecting. I know, obviously, like PlayStation 4 seems like the lead platform for this, but I was honestly expecting them to kind of just like last minute be like, oh, by the way, Xbox, you can play for a couple of days or something. Would have been kind of nice. But I mean, the fact they did a beta literally like the week before. I mean, by the time the beta closes, it'll be Monday. It's gonna be like 4 days before the game comes out. That did really surprise me. I mean, I guess maybe it's one of those things where they're just like, oh, you know, the build's there. I'll just give people something like a means to tide them over until the game comes out. But yeah, I didn't. I honestly didn't expect that. I was like, I didn't even account for it. I was going to be away that weekend as well, and I was like, I better change my plans now.
Yeah, I was going to say, you probably had a bunch of stuff to sort of catch up on other games before you dive into Monster Hunter, and then like this comes out and you're like, well, crap, I gotta...
Exactly that. I was literally like, I literally had like, I was like, oh, this weekend I can use it to like loads of different things, be great, and then it's like, okay, let's just shuffle everything around now, change my working week. But it's good though. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, it's going to be nice just to have a chance to, like, any chance to play more Monster Hunter is always good, but I do feel like I definitely want to fight Nergigante. There's a few more things that I want to do in this beta that I didn't get a chance to do before, but I feel like I'll probably play it. I probably won't play it quite as much as I played the first one, just because like it is so close to launch, and like I've played this content so much, because of course this is also like basically a variation of what was like at Gamescom and various different things like packs and stuff. So like I don't want to just like do this content over and over again to the point where I'm just like, ugh, you know. So I think I'll do my Nergigante, mess around with some cool stuff, probably do some more speed runs, because that was kind of what we enjoyed doing last time, and then be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm just going to wait.
Yeah, I probably expected just to have probably see you guys just do Nergigante because Jagras even to me has been boring at this point. I mostly fight Baroth so I can go fight Diablos, my favorite monster.
Fair.
I was never able to take down Merthalis or Diablos by myself though. I did take down Juritatis, but it's me getting used to the controls and that kind of stuff. And I will admit I am not the best hunter in the world. I'm just super experienced and knowledgeable. That doesn't mean I'm good.
Hey, as long as you're enjoying it, that's the main thing though, right?
Yeah. So maybe I wanted to ask you, like, so the monster roster, right? A lot of people, veterans especially, will say, I don't like using the veteran term, but I'll go because that's how Adopt-A-Hunter is using it, veterans and newbies. By the way, real quick aside, are you part of the Adopt-A-Hunter thing, or are you just sort of
I haven't. I mean, I've seen it crop up. I honestly haven't had a chance to. I've been like so busy. I haven't had a chance to like properly look into it yet. I mean, I've seen it like in passing and stuff. So I need to.
It's a really cool effort, and I'm kind of plugging another thing here, but like I'm just participating. I'm not in any way officially involved with them, but I think it's a really cool thing to sort of bring in newcomers. The thing is, it's like a 3-to-1 ratio of experienced players to newcomers right now.
Yeah.
Mostly because I don't think a lot of those newcomers really are in the same channels that would know about Adopt-A-Hunter. So
exactly.
I'm kind of glad they got to go to PAX South and that kind of thing, and they actually got to talk to Capcom, and they've restructured a bit recently. So
yeah,
I think if anyone's sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying I think it's also one of those things where like an initiative like that will probably see a lot more interest like a week or so into launch because like I think if you think about it, a lot of people that are like, oh, this game looks interesting, I'm probably going to check it out. But because they haven't played it yet or they haven't got the full game, they're not invested like we are. So like, you know, like me, you know, we'll sit on like the subreddit every single day. We'll look for news every day. We'll just look at everything every day. I think those people, until they've played Monster Hunter and until, you know, when they play it and it clicks and they're like, I like this, then they'll be like, all right, let me go online and start looking at things. And I think that's when they'll discover this. They'll be like, oh, here's a chance for me to get better kind of thing. So I feel like that initiative will probably take flight a lot, you know, a couple of weeks into launch, once people have started like finding their feet. And also, you know, inevitably it happens in like every Monster Hunter game, right? People will, you know, they start the game, it's quite manageable to begin with, and then they'll probably hit their own wall. You know, whatever it ends up being, whether it ends up being like a Baroth or an Anjanath or something, they'll hit their wall, and that's the point where they'll be like, all right, how do I go and get some help? And then this will probably be where it starts to like flourish and blossom and stuff. So I think it's a brilliant. I mean, you know, it's one of those things that, I mean, I've said it time and time again, and it's also kind of what I try to do in my videos. You know, I try to produce my videos in a way that it makes sure I always kind of starts them in a way where it's like, if you've never played before, then you can understand this video, but if you're a veteran, there's also going to be value for you here as well. So I try and kind of cater to both audiences in that vein, because ultimately, if we all want a series that we love to grow, I want more people to play that series, which is always why, you know, like when like in throughout, you know, following from like when it was announced at E3 and then, you know, all the way up until launch, when there have been kind of people like unsure about certain ththings or some of these quality of life changes, and then people are like, oh, is that making it too easy? It's like, you know, it's really not. I'm always happy for both sides, because ultimately, any of the things that people are unsure of, it's just like, these are things that you don't even have to use. But like, if it means that more people are going to get into Monster Hunter and like it, it's a great thing.
Yeah, I was personally very vocal about the sort of EKG meter for the lock-on. I was very against that. But when I actually got to play in the demo, I realized it's not really that overt. You don't really see it that much, so I just ignored it. And
yeah, I mean, I honestly don't even look at it at all. I mean, I forget it's there half the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like it was cheapening the whole looking at monster behavior and animations kind of thing that we've been doing since Game 1.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't as fleshed out in Game 1. And now we have tired, which, you know, the monsters didn't used to tire. It used to be on and off on rage mode.
Yeah.
Which is kind of why it's easy for me to tell when Diablos is almost dead, because Diablos, he just gets angry when he's almost dead. He doesn't get tired as much. So at least that's the way he was in the previous game. I don't know if Monster Hunter World, he acts the exact same that way, because I think I only got him the limp once. So
okay,
he was kicking my butt because I was not that great. But what I was going to say before I got into the whole Adopt-A-Hunter thing is a lot of veterans have been sort of concerned about the monster list.
Okay.
So even from the leaked list, we're talking like about 30 large monsters, right?
Mhm.
And we're coming off of things like Monster Hunter Generations and Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. We're talking like those are 70, 60 plus monsters each, large monsters. And so there's been a lot of concern about like, is there going to be enough content and that kind of stuff? And I keep trying to remind people that, hey, people played thousands of hours in Monster Hunter Tri, and it had 18 large monsters.
Yeah.
It had already less than this. But I wanted to ask your opinion. Do you feel like there's going to be a lot more monsters than we know about or that we've seen from this leaked list? Like, how much do you think they're holding back?
I mean, that's a good question because honestly, that's things that I've asked as well in interviews before, and they've always been very kind of like closed off about the list. But I think, like, for me, it's one of those things where, from like a game development point of view as well, I always have a slightly different insight because of I spent some time like in the industry anyway, so I kind of see things from like a developer point of view as well.
Same
but, like,
here.
Yeah, so I'm just always like, I think whatever they give us is gonna be great because I think bear in mind, like, you get to the point where you look at Generations, you're like, all right, sure, there were like a ton of monsters in there because ultimately, while every single 3DS version has, it's introduced a few new things, it's changed a little bit, but ultimately it's still built on fundamentally the same engine, right? It goes up, and then they can basically just grab things from pre-existing things, they can bring them over, sure, they can tweak things and whatnot, but ultimately to get a very big list in Generations, it's a lot easier for them to be like, all right, let's just take everything from the previous Monster Hunter game, take those monsters, add some more stuff in, and then you have this constantly growing list. Whereas to go to a world which is so drastically different, I imagine everything has to be built from the ground up. So, to suddenly create like 60, 70 monsters in world would have been an insane amount of work, right? To the point where, I just don't feel like, at this stage, while yes, every time there's a new monster revealed, it looks more and more like the leaked list ends up being true. But regardless of whether it is or not, the point is, like, even if there's 30 to begin with, as you said, like, people invested thousands of hours into Try, and if they had 18 monsters, this is like a little less than double that, if assuming we're going with 30. And I think there's going to be so much content in here anyway. I mean, there's just like, I think about the beta, like what was it? The first beta, I basically played it for like 10, 12 hours a day all 3 days. I mean, that was literally just Jagras, Anjanath, and I mean, that was also the first beta before there was even like Kuruyaku and Poke, right? So that's just like literally the 3 monsters. And then obviously the couple of other ones that are roaming around. And I played that for like 30 hours.
Yeah.
So all right, that's 30 hours for 3 monsters. Give me, times that by another 10. It's great. So I mean, like, I think honestly, like, the way that I see it is when I sat down and I chatted to Ryozo and Tokuda, and they were just like, there've been a lot of questions about content, they're about monster numbers and stuff, and they were like, all we're going to ask is just trust us. We've been making Monster Hunter for a long time. We know what we're doing, and there's plenty of stuff for you guys to enjoy. When they said that, I'm like, you know what? You're right, because like you guys know the series. You guys are trying to make a great game. Whatever they deliver, it's going to be cool. And the fact that we know that we're going to be getting frequent updates, and all those updates are free. So even if we end up launching with, 30 monsters, we already know we've got Devil Joe coming. There could be, who knows how many more monsters we've got coming before. I mean, you look at like 4 Ultimate had like a solid 12 months of free DLC. Assuming we get that for World, that roster could very easily just bolster, in a short space of time. So honestly, I'm not worried. I think to myself, there's so much new content here and so much stuff to enjoy that I'm just gonna. And also, the other cool thing as well is a lot of the things they've been showing off have still been new monsters. So
yes,
if it's one of those things where, all right, there are only 30, but a lot of them are newer monsters, sure, there's some favourites that I do wish would come back. It'd be like, I would love to see T-Rex, I would love to see Arekkz, I would love to see Zenoga. But like, if most of the monsters we've seen are new, then that in itself is more valuable content, right? I think if they brought back 30 monsters, 25 of which are old monsters, it would have felt a little bit like, oh, what's actually new kind of thing. But since we've seen so many new monsters, I'm like, you know what, this is exciting as it is.
Yeah, I personally, I haven't been too worried. I would like the more the better for me, right?
Yeah, of course,
I mean, I think that in general, the more the better. But you mentioned you're on the game development side. You've been in that world before, or at least around it. Me as a programmer, for my profession, I understand how these things can go horribly wrong and awry and take time, and making an application that does taxes, it's just numbers, is not an easy thing. Now put AI on a monster and make it somewhat believable and make this awesome game out of it. That's like 7,000 times more complicated when I do for a living.
Yeah.
And and that takes me 10 hours a day. Like it's amazing. You know, the developers have learned to kind of do this kind of stuff. I'd be afraid to go into game development at this point. That's kind of why I became a programmer, is I wanted to go into game development. But then, you know, you have a family and that kind of stuff, and you can't really just rush off to California when you live in Ohio.
Fair.
So
I think the other thing to think about as well, also not just to kind of jump in there as well, is that not only are the monsters more kind of, you know, a lot of them have been like redone and revamped and whatnot, but also there's a ton of like monster interactions that we just never saw before. Like, sure, you know, Rathalos and Rathian could have flown into the same area in a previous Monster Hunter game, or like different monsters, but they never really interacted in proper ways. Whereas these ones, you have, you know, full on turf wars that some of these monsters are fighting. So not only do you have, you know, a load of new monsters, but there's just all the new ways they can interact with one another as well, and, you know, and interacting with like the environment and stuff. So I think there's definitely a lot of stuff going on here. And also, I think the other thing to bear in mind as well is I think they're probably trying to they're probably trying to create the game in such a way where they're giving people plenty of content, but this is also a kind of like a test for them, because this is a big push for Capcom to try and really push Monster Hunter in the West. Obviously, like, you know, anyone that's like listening to this podcast, anyone that like reads the subreddit, we're obviously already existing massive fans anyway, and we love it in the West anyway. But it has still been for quite a while a relatively niche series, right? So, and this is their big push. So it is still ultimately a gamble for them, right? I mean, there is still a chance that the game could come out, and despite their best efforts, people might still be like, you know what? I still don't get Monster Hunter. It still doesn't appeal to me, and it could still remain a moderately niche game, right? That is still I hope it doesn't happen, but it is still a possibility. So if they were to then, again, from a development point of view, be like, all right, let's make this the biggest Monster Hunter we've ever made with like 100 monsters, like insane amounts of content, and then the game comes out and it's not the hit in the West they were hoping for. I mean, that's a big hit for them, right? Yeah,
that's a huge financial dunk. Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas if they play it, you know, if they play it safe, because I mean, think about it as well. Like in this sense, let's just say they play it safe, and, you know, devil's advocate. Let's say it launches. It's got the 30 monsters. People love it, and then everyone in the West like, holy crap! How have I never heard about Monster Hunter before? This is insane. It's amazing. I love this. I want more of this. You know, suddenly they could be like, all right, well, here's your year's free updates. We're going to drop Devil Joe. We're going to drop X different monsters. We might, you know, they could even be like, oh, we're going to add like another 10 monsters, right? That suddenly bolsters, and when you factor in every new monster's got a new armor set, got new weapons and stuff, there's more stuff for you to do. And then again, you know, by judging by the interviews they've been talking about, it sounds like we're just launching with low and high rank. It's also an entire possibility they could be like, all right, it's popular, we'll give you a G rank expansion, sell it as downloadable content, add in like another 20 monsters, and before you know it, we've got world with like 50, 60 monsters. So, you know, anything's possible. But I think regardless, whatever it is, I'm not too worried. I think I always have an open mind to this kind of stuff anyway. But I've just literally been like super hyped about everything, and there's not really anything that's been like that I've had like bad to say or anything that's kind of phased me too much, apart from like the scout flies. But apart from that, yeah.
Yeah, I actually kind of like the scout flies. It's like, aside from when they get confused, that annoys me.
That's the thing. I don't mind. Yeah, I don't mind their existence. They just never work for me. Like even though I'll pin them, and they'll just like they'll lead me somewhere. And they'll be like, oh no, we've changed our mind. Please go this way. It's like, come on, really?
Yeah, sometimes they decide to go for, like, let's say Barioth's Mud. Baroth's Mud, not Barioth. That's a different monster. Baroth's Mud instead of Baroth. And I learned in the game to sort of like, okay, I kind of already know where Baroth is going to be, so I'm just going to ignore the scout flies right now, and they'll catch up.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to sort of mention is, you know, back on like the amount of monsters and, you know, all the development stuff that we were talking about, is that it would be one of the things I want to do, and I haven't been doing this podcast for long, but I have been in the Monster Hunter community for a long time, is that I started this whole thing, you know, the whole podcast thing, you know, from, you know, the meltdown that was like the community when we first heard about World, and we're not getting double cross, and there's a lot of negativity. So I wanted to be, a sort of a positive, just sort of discussion on Monster Hunter like we're doing. But one of the other reasons is that I watch a lot of YouTube content. I watch a lot of that kind of stuff because I can watch that while I work or listen to it mostly. And one thing that I've noticed with like people noticing the game here in the West is you've got these really big like gaming focused podcasts and content producers like Easy Allies, Kind of Funny Games, and those kind of people. And you're actually seeing them talk about Monster Hunter a little more. But I'm still at the point where I'm just begging for them to give it a little bit more limelight, because one of my favorite ones in the most recent days has been Easy Allies, and they don't sort of do that sort of news coverage for their podcast. They're more like what we're doing here. They're more discussion, but they're about discussion about games in general, right? And they only have, out of their 9 people, one person who's like a legitimate Monster Hunter fan. Right. So it doesn't come up that often because he's also a Dragon Ball Z fan. He's also, most people are not fans of one game. I've mentioned before, I'm huge into D&D. I'm not just a mod on the Monster Hunter sub. I'm also a mod on D&D Behind the Screen. I write giant monster ecologies. I'm not just into Monster Hunter.
Nice.
The other thing, like I'm into Diablo. I like that kind of stuff. Everyone has like different games that they go across. But the thing is, like these content producers, they sort of gloss over Monster Hunter, and I want to see the point where that flips. I think if Monster Hunter is a success, I think we're going to see that flip, because I saw that happen with Destiny, right?
Yeah.
Destiny was sort of just written off with Kind of Funny Games, and specifically this happened. Greg, as some people may know, is sort of like the figurehead of Kind of Funny. There's a lot of them, and they're all important people for sure. But Greg is the guy a lot of people gravitate to. When he started playing Destiny 2, people were like, "Oh, they're talking about Destiny 2 a lot." And Andrea Renee, who's on there too, is, she's big into Destiny. So, Destiny, it was like every podcast they mentioned Destiny in some sort of fashion. I'm really hoping that happens at least with some podcasts for Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
And the problem that I have, and I'm sure the Carve has, and all of us Monster Hunter focused people, is that we're not going to reach that sort of broad audience. The people are going to find us if they're interested. You know what I mean? Which is awesome. But like we're not in the larger YouTube space or that kind of thing. Now you do have some overlap with Destiny and some other content you do, which is great that you're so into Monster Hunter. I really I know you're into it because you're into it, but I really like that you're into it because people do look at you for other stuff, and it does help spread the word. So I'm just so I'm happy that we're probably going to be seeing a good number boon in the community. I really hope that it is that turning point that they're hoping it is.
I really hope so too. And I think the other thing that's super powerful as well is just the fact that it's like, I love playing Monster Hunter on a portable console. I love being able to take it on the train with me. But at the same time, I think being on these consoles, on a console where at the press of a button, you can be live on Twitch. Like, even if you're not a quote unquote Twitch streamer, you can at the press of a button just stream to Twitch. And I think that
Precisely.
in itself, like, suddenly we're going to have a directory full. I mean, you're talking about like big podcasts and stuff, like, name dropping, things like that. I mean, but other things I'm excited for. I mean, like, for example, a couple of very, very big Twitch streamers, Gathalion and Professor Broman, they are huge Monster Hunter fans. They've been playing for years, but they just never really played. They never streamed the handheld ones because, of course, it's quite hard to stream 3DS games. I mean, obviously, unless you want to go to Katsukity and get it like imported and wait for 6 months. So they're incredibly exciting. I mean, Gathalion is both of those are a huge force on Twitch, and they've got huge audiences and they play lots of different games. So that in itself, like, he's been talking about it all week in his streams because he's just counting down the days. So when he live streams, he's gonna have his, like, if he's streaming to like some 8,000-10,000 people concurrent, and they're just like, what is Monster Hunter? And suddenly he's like, well, let me show you. I mean, that's a huge audience of people that are suddenly going to be like, this game looks awesome. So that I'm super excited for. Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely that, and also just like from content creation. I mean, I've already seen a few people kind of do like some new channels and stuff doing some stuff in the beta, which is really encouraging to see. I've seen I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but there's a guy who's been dropping some like early weapon sort of tutorial kind of things on the subreddit, and like they've been some great tutorials. It's a channel that I hadn't. I mean, he's obviously been around for a while, but I mean, it's a channel that I hadn't heard of before. But he's obviously dipping his toes into Monster Hunter and making some new content. And like that's great to see. Like I want to see like a lot more people making content. Whether it be guides or tutorials or just in general like let's plays and just like fun. I mean, that's another thing as well. That's quite exciting. There's a lot of like let's play YouTube channels out there. And now that Monster Hunter World's got a story, I mean, I don't know how good the story's going to be, but it's still got a story and it's got like cutscenes and stuff. So that means that those kind of channels could play through, even if they're not necessarily going to play, like they might be the channel that will play it for like just the 60 hours to complete the campaign, and then they might put the game down. And I mean, that's fine, because there will be people that will do that, right? But even so, if they have like a series playthrough and they're like, oh, you can watch the Monster Hunter story playthrough. I mean, that's gonna be more content for people to kind of dip their toes into, right? So
right,
and I think that's quite important, because there are different people that experience it in different ways. I'm hoping that most people that pick it up will understand that Monster Hunter is more than just playing through the story. It's going to be about like the bigger end game of grinding for gear. But there will still the fact that, from the sounds of it, World will allow you to at least play through and just experience a story. And if you do just want to play it as like a 60-hour game and then put it down, then people will still get an experience out of it, right? So
yeah.
But no, I'm incredibly excited. More content, more podcasts, more streams. It's going to be I just really hope. And I think the other important thing to do. I mean, I've stressed it in a couple of live streams. I know they've kind of spoken about it. The community manager Socks has said it in a couple of chants when he's in stream as well. I think one of the most important things is that we are like welcoming as well, because I mean there are I mean they are few and far between, but there are some elitists out there, and I've seen some comments on YouTube channels. I've seen some different things, and people that are just very much like this is my game. I don't want it to change. I don't want I don't like new people and things like that. It's like that attitude kind of definitely needs to change if we want the game to succeed. If we want it to grow, like we need to be welcoming. There'll be a lot of people coming in. There'll be a lot of people joining online lobbies, joining your quests who might not have played the games before. And it's going to be incredibly important that we are supportive of those people, because the more people that, the more that we give them a warm welcome and explain what Monster Hunter is and they play, the better it is. I mean, that's what I try to do. Again, that's what I'm trying to do through my tutorials. I'm trying to make sure that if there's anything people are confused about, I will have a means of saying, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to understand. Because, ultimately, the more that we bring people in, the bigger the community gets and the more the game is a success, right? So...
Yes, yeah, I can completely agree. That is something that this is going to get a little behind the scenes for the sub, but that is something that myself and the other mods really stress is being welcoming.
Yes.
So we try our hardest to not alienate new users to the sub and that kind of thing. I think sometimes we're not the greatest at it. It's hard to distinguish when people are just like self-promoting their videos and they're not really participating in the community. That's where we tend to, please participate, be part of the community. Don't just drop your video and say bye. You don't have to worry about that. You and Gaijin are both on the sub from time to time. We know that. Don't worry about it.
I try and post as much as I can, definitely.
Yeah. So it's been sort of a weird place for, to be a Monster Hunter fan, because, things are changing, and I think for the better, for sure, but change is scary, and a lot of people got scared. So there's some people who are generally just elitists out there, and, honestly, I would say just ignore them. This is a game that you can play the way you want to play. That's the fact that any weapon can be a solo weapon. You can solo the game with anything if if you have the drive to learn how to do it and that kind of stuff. So sure, I think some weapons are going to be harder to do. I would say in previous games, Sword and Shield would be like ultimate hard mode, solo mode, but but it's doable. So I am glad to see a lot of new people coming in. It's been definitely a ride these past couple 6-7 months. I never expected it to be on PlayStation. Those rumors came out, and I was like, "This just doesn't make sense. There's no way this is coming to PlayStation. They've been on PlayStation. Things went sour. Why would they be going back? But that we're living in a world where Monster Hunter is coming to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One and PC. It's just a thing. Personally, I would have liked to see it hit Nintendo consoles also, being a Nintendo fan myself, but
Yeah.
I've followed Monster Hunter. I've bought 3 PSPs for Monster Hunter. I've bought... I'm more a fan of the game than I am of a platform for a lot of things. And it's funny, my three favorite series aren't even Nintendo series, but I still love Nintendo games. It's just I'm really glad to see a lot of people though, like a lot more people coming in.
Oh yeah, it's so good to see. It's just and I mean just also I mean that as you were saying before, like I've spoken to because I go to like a lot of like events when I come to like capture gameplay and stuff, and I speak to game journalists, I speak to other YouTubers and stuff, and there's a lot of people that had never played the series before, and or they've been like, oh, I've heard of Monster Hunter before, never really had a chance to get into it either because I don't really play those kind of I don't play like on handheld or I haven't for whatever reason, and there have been a lot of people that are just like, I'm really excited about this. I mean, I was chatting to the Outside Xbox guys, for example, and Mike from that specifically, he's really looking forward to playing Monster Hunter. I mean, and just so many people. It's just, I mean, I was even chatting to Ali A, obviously, massive YouTuber, and he's seen some videos, and he had a chance to play at Gamescom, and he's like, I'm looking forward to checking it out. I mean, you never know like quite how much he'll have the time to play it because obviously everyone's busy and stuff. But the fact that there's just a lot more people that there's obviously they've seen it and they're just like, I'm excited. It's just it's so good to see. Yeah.
I think part of the challenge there was before is, Monster Hunter wasn't popular enough to really do a lot of content. Because, I mean, if you're a content producer like yourself, there's certain things that you probably have to drop because it's not going to get enough views, I would assume, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I suppose it depends on kind of like the angle. I mean, like Monster Hunter, like prior to World, was like it was kind of it was still like it did well on the channel, but it was never like one of the huge ones. But I've always pushed it because it's just a series that I love, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna keep making videos. I'm gonna teach people about Monster Hunter. But I mean, obviously, for some people, they have to if they were to cover it and they'd be like, you know what, it's just not getting the views. Ultimately, they have to look at it like a business, right? And it's just like if it doesn't bring them in the views, then understandably.
Or it doesn't fit their content
exactly
well. But I was going to say, back to the whole streaming stuff. I'm actually going to be streaming at this point now too. I've never been a streamer. I've never been a YouTuber or a streamer or that kind of stuff. Well, all right, I did do a Diablo 1 Let's Play like a long time ago, but no one's seen that. I've taken that down now. So I'm going to try. But yeah, like you're right that a lot of people are going to be streaming this. My good friend from high school that I've reconnected with over this game, he's streaming. He streams Overwatch. He's going to be streaming this now. Not that he has like any audience or following, like because I don't. I have 2 subscribers on Twitch. I have Wrath of Gog and my high school friend. That's it. Not even my wife. Well, that's kind of a joke. She doesn't do this stuff, but
fair.
So we've been talking a lot about like the beta and how popular it's going to be, but we mentioned that we wanted to get into like what we're just excited for in the game coming up. So I'll just ask you that. Well, what are you excited for when we finally have our hands on the full game?
So I think I've got 3 main things I'm super excited for. So one of them is just like the main reason I play Monster Hunter. Like I love to I'm a person that likes to customize. So every time I fight a new monster, there's the excitement of like you've hunted it, you go back and you see like the armor set, right? And there's like there have been a few that we've seen in some of the obviously in some of the trailers and stuff, but there's still a load for like monsters we haven't seen. So I'm super excited to see just like all the armor sets because like that I can't wait. And I'm gonna make like I've always said like in previous Monster Hunter games I've wanted to kind of make like all of the armor or lots of the armor. I feel like in this game I might actually try and go off there because I'm going to be playing it a lot anyway. I'll be streaming it, I'll be making videos on it, so passively I'll just be playing it like a lot anyway. So I might genuinely try and like, especially if there's no like gunner armor now, it's just like one set. I might try if I can and make like once I get to like high rank or something, make like all the high rank armor or something if I could. That would be kind of cool. And plus, I want to try and bring back like the Mix Set Monday series anyway, so it'll be more beneficial if I have all the armor anyway. So I definitely say that. Amazing. I'd say also like every monster has some kind of quote unquote final boss monster, right? And it's the one they never normally show before the launch. Like, you might see, I mean, at best, like when Double Cross came out, we saw like the snippet of like the robot looking monster, but we still didn't see what it was until obviously you play the game. So I want to see whatever that is, because sometimes in the past they have been huge. I'm thinking like Amatsu and stuff like that. So like, I mean, World is such a big game that has this scope. So I can't even begin to think what possibly that could be. I'm really hoping they blow us away. I'm hoping like they use the grand scale of the game and like it ends up being like a final boss kind of comparable to the likes of like Gogmazios or like Amatsu and stuff like that. That would be insane. So just that. And I think the other one, just a simple thing, but just like the day-to-day grind and hunting with my friends. Like, I just really enjoy the process of like, you get in, because like, I've loved the beta, but like there's no progression in the beta, right? It's just like the feeling of like jumping on and be like, all right, that armor set's cool. Well, let's go and hunt. Like, even if I have to hunt this monster 10 times back to back, I'm gonna do it. So just to be back hunting monsters is that. What about you?
Well, I was going to say on your last point there's something to be said about being part of like a community of people playing together.
Yes.
There's like, hey, like this guy, like the cutscenes that they used to do in, like, let's say 4 Ultimate, right? Where the 3 hunters are in their distinctive male, or Generations. There's that group of 4 hunters, which including the feline. There's a sort of an idea that like you and a bunch of buddies, like you got your own unique squad and you're going out there and sort of progressing together. I can see what you're saying about being excited about that. I haven't had that in a long time. So that is one of the things I'm excited for, is to actually be playing with some of my friends again. And hopefully they'll stick with it this time, because I don't know. I've talked about this a long time ago. But to you, I think maybe some listeners have heard this before, but I started out in the first Monster Hunter because my friends convinced me to buy the game, right? And these are those same friends that I've reconnected with recently in Monster Hunter World. But they dropped Monster Hunter 1 maybe about HR 15 before you get to 20. So 20 used to be the max. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But basically, they were almost to the end game, but never there, right? And I'm excited just to do that with a lot of different people this time, because I don't just have my high school friends. I have my new college friends that also play. I've been playing with some people from the community, and doing this podcast, I've met and been able to talk to so many great people from the sub. Gog and Lobo, I would have never known if I hadn't done this podcast. Which for you, I don't know if you've been following us as a podcast for a while now. We now have 3 normal hosts, which is Lobo and Gog and myself. You met Gog before. He was the unofficial co-host when we recorded with you last time, but he was going to be the official co-host.
Nice.
So I would have never got to interact with a lot of different people. I mean, I've been a mod on the sub long before this the zeitgeist of Monster Hunter World. I've been a mod since the Tri Days or Tri 3 Ultimate. So like, but as a mod, you don't get to interact with the community in the same way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're seeing more of like someone slapping your wrist for doing something wrong on the sub more than being a community member.
I hear you. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to just sort of play with everybody and sort of experience everything. Another thing, the biggest thing that I personally am excited for is the monsters. I mentioned that my whole passion in all of fantasy, gaming, D&D, everything has always been monsters. I love monsters. And Monster Hunter has some of the best monsters, in my opinion, as far as fleshed out in their ideas. You know what I mean? They're living, breathing creatures, even in Monster Hunter 1, right? The ideas were always there, and Ryoza said that, right? We're finally able to do what we wanted to do, right? It's not that they just sort of, came up with it on the spot. We're revamping because people said we should. No, that's always been their goals, to make these really fleshed out creatures.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see that happen. I'm excited to see that vision. And if I ever get to meet him, I'm going to thank him up and down. He's given me the best game series that I have ever played. Like, as far as like heroes in my world, he's one of them. Like,
yeah.
the one of the things I want to see is I want to see more territorial clashes. But I want to see, and I'm not sure if they did this, and of course they haven't talked about this yet. I want to see interactions with other large monsters that aren't violent, or let's say Rothalis and Rathian. I want to see if possibly they, not them actually mating, but like, you know, sort of like a, hey, I'm interested in you kind of thing, like them dancing at each other, that kind of stuff, like, you know, like real creatures might do, or, you know, they just fight because they're, you know, hey, I got another mate. Get out of here. You're encroaching on our. Like,
yeah, that's true.
So I want to see maybe like some more interactions that just aren't, you know, like, hey, get out of my territory. Which, I mean, yeah, most of the time you see animals fighting because of territory and that kind of stuff. Large predatory animals that we're looking at. Or territorial in Diablos' case. A lot of people tend to mistake Diablos for this giant man-eating wyvern, and no, he's a cactivore. He eats cactus. And it's part of the reason why he's my favorite. He's so different.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of the other things, but yeah, that's what I am personally just most excited for, is just to see how they were able to bring, you know, the monsters more to life than before. Because that's what I do with my writing, is I create ecologies for monsters. This is pseudo related. I actually wrote an ecology on flying wyverns.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's based on the Monster Hunter flying wyverns, but it's more geared towards the D&D spectrum of things. Okay. So basically, sort of explaining how a wyvern's daily life would become, you know, like would be, and where they came from and how they came to be in the context of Monster Hunter. And all of the wyverns I talk about are, I call them the Wraths, and then the burrowing desert wyvern. And, you know, like I was being, you know, not saying their names, but, you know, talking about them. Because I just like doing that in my writing, making references and stuff. But nice. I got a lot of flack though for comparing them to dinosaurs, but that was just my own headcanon. The wyverns evolved from dinosaurs. But hey, you know, kind of makes sense to me considering brute wyverns. Then you get into flying wyverns. But yeah, anyways. So yeah, that's the biggest thing that I'm excited for. So to sort of like wrap this up, because we, you know, it's sort of informal and that kind of stuff. It's just how we do it now. We don't have if you remember before, we had like an agenda and topics per. Yeah, I think you remember doing that, right? We had like a list we were looking at. I've stopped doing that. That doesn't help a lot.
Okay, fair.
It's just open discussion. We're just doing, you know, what I
it feels more organic that way.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to end off with is just a story of two of just like. I call it like the around the hunter's campfire. Like, what are some of your favorite Monster Hunter moments?
I think one of my actually like it came back up on Twitter the other day. Like someone like tweeted the GIF that kind of started the whole Charge Blade movement for me.
Yeah.
So I mean, I say that. I mean, I was using Charge Blade before, but there's like before when he's playing for Ultimate, before Socks was community manager, like, because I've known him since we used to work together at Microsoft, and like we used to play Monster Hunter together, and we had like our team which we used to call like the Naptime Ninjas, because basically we used to like put the monsters to sleep, and then use the Schoenberg Scythe Charge Blade, and we would like get four of us, and we would synchronize the ultras so that they would hit the monster at the same time. But that all started because there was like we didn't invent that. That started because there was a GIF. It was on the subreddit. I can't remember who it was, but there were Japanese players, four of them, and they were fighting Kirin. Kirin was asleep. They all put bombs down. They all synchronized.
I remember this GIF. Yeah,
it was so good. And they do the synchronized ultra all with the Schoenberg Scythe, and it's like it's so perfect. So then when that happened, like I sent it to Socks. I was like, we need to start doing this. So at first it was just me and him that got the scythe, and we used the in-game ping to synchronize it. It would be like ping, 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 and then we go, because obviously, you know, if we're speaking on chat, there's like a latency kind of thing. Yeah. And then a couple of the other guys that we were playing with, we got them into Charge Blade as well, and they started doing the same thing. So that's where we kind of adopted the name like Naptime Ninjas, because basically we were just like we just put the monster to sleep and then just do that, and it just became the thing that we did, and it was just like it was so good. That was that's definitely one of my fondest moments of like a Monster Hunter time.
That's really cool. Have you ever my moment. Have you ever? It takes a little preface. Have you ever seen the Mad videos?
Yes. Oh, I love them. I love them. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I would dare say that inspired the Mad videos is the old Monster Hunter 1 promotional material showed. Where Thalos used to do the thing where he would circle the map. Everyone hated it because you couldn't fight him. He just flew off, but he didn't fly to another area. He just circled around the area. You couldn't even shoot him. He's literally a mile in the sky. And then he would bank, and he would come down, and he would sort of like strafe the ground and land.
Okay.
So that move has been erased a long time ago. I think they still had it in Freedom Unite, and I think that's the last we saw of it. He used to just bank and just sort of fly across the ground. But this is before you could charge a greatsword. So you just had an overhead chop, a side chop, and an uppercut. That's it.
Okay.
One of the promotional materials showed a hunter knocking Rathalos out of a sky during that swoop when he's strafing the ground. And it's like one of the original like PR trailers for the game or something. And I always wanted to do that. So even further back in Monster Hunter 1, I was a heavy bow gunner for the first 1,500 hours. And the second 1,000 hours I played was Greatsword. Because I lost my 1,500 hour save. Yeah, it was devastating, but I was a 14, 15-year-old kid, so whatever, just jump back into it. I actually pulled that move off. So he's strafing the ground, and he comes in, and I just timed it perfectly. And I always got carded because I always tried to do it, because I was just so obsessed with doing it. And I finally pulled it off one time, and I was like, showing off the game to my girlfriend, now wife at the time. I was just so proud of myself. She'd never seen it. And I was like, watch this. And I was all cocky and stuff. And I was like, wham, hit him in the head, and he just drops. And I was like, oh, and I dropped the controller and lost all the time to get free hits. But hey, I still did it.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
And of course, it wasn't like I bet those Mad videos are somewhat staged. Of course, they're cut. Like really, they're cut together. It's not like it's all doing it in one hunt. But like, I think they're still amazing.
Yeah. I mean, in some of them, like there were a couple of them where they actually have like outtakes at the end to kind of give you an idea of like the amount of failed attempts. Like the monster will come towards them, they'll miss time the flinch and stuff. And but I mean those videos. I mean, in fact, actually, kind of going back to what you were saying earlier, what else are you looking forward to in World? The other thing is seeing Mad videos come out from World because like they're going to look so crazy.
There's some good stuff out there already. Just like people doing things like I would say that I was pretty proud of my counter kill I talked about earlier. But another one I've seen is a lot of people. There was someone, I was on the sub. They continuously kept knocking Anjanath out of the air. And it was like, it was trying to do that jump from the sort of beach area of the. And it was trying to jump up that vine wall that you can sort of find him in the beginning. So he's trying to go up into the trees. And someone just kept knocking him down every time he was trying to jump up because I guess he was super weak. I think it was a gunner or something. And I've seen another where Anjanath was on there's the area that in the forest that's got that little pool at the bottom. It has some of those really super aggressive catfish. And it's like a giant rocky hill up to the sort of clearing that has the giant hollow tree. If you remember that area, that giant slanted rock area that has the paratoads. Someone, this was also on the sub, and Anjanath jumped in the air to pounce on the hunter, and they did the mortar shot, I think, and it knocked him out of the air in midair, and he just dropped straight.
Amazing.
It was like so good. There's some out there already, but no official Mad videos yet, but that's going to be great.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Well, thank you, hunters, for joining us today, and we will see you next quest.
See ya!
Thank you, hunters, for listening today. You can catch us on SoundCloud or any past episodes on Google Drive download or YouTube.